The Dave Hooker Show. A presentation of Off the Hook Sports. Objective insight, expertise, top guests. Available on YouTube, Apple, Spotify, and the Off the Hook Sports app. Download now for free. Also available on offthehooksports.com.
I compute and obey.
Now to Dave Hooker.
Ready.
Well, a lot to talk about. One topic that we'd rather not talk about, and we'll get to that, but other things as well, including the latest from Tennessee as they held their first scrimmage of preseason camp on Thursday. We'll have all the highlights and one low light. Fred White will join us. It's a Football Friday with Fred. Arion Carter, kudos to you, young man, named one of the top 50 newcomers in college football. This coming from ESPN. So I can go ahead and basically tell you that this is coming from Tennessee's coaches, because to assemble this type of column with 50 newcomers in college football and including true freshmen, you've got to get a little insight. So I think Tennessee's coaches really like Arion Carter, which is what I'd heard the whole time. And we'll talk some college football. Are there fans complaining about conference realignment? Are they hypocrites? I got some pretty strong feelings on that. I'm afraid that Caleb Calhoun's going to tear me apart eventually on that one. Caleb Calhoun, how are you, sir?
I am good. Happy Friday. College football is, I believe, 15 days away, guys. 15 days.
Is that right? 15?
Yes, for week, because they have week 0 now. So
that went away and then they brought it back, right?
Yes, exactly. I still prefer, I'm not going to lie, week 1. Like, I love the week 1 surrounding Labor Day weekend. I always said that NASCAR should have its whatever race that week. There should be like a whole like big weekend thing of NASCAR having a big race to get to the what is it, the sprint, the Chase Cup, and have college football, have a huge weekend, have it all in one spot. Just
looking like a true NASCAR fan right there.
I'm not really a NASCAR fan at all.
Know, whatever they call it, the Chase Cup. All right, welcome to the program. Hit the like and subscribe button. Turn your notifications on, because we had stuff dropping yesterday. My thoughts on Cooper Mays, which we're going to get to. And full disclaimer, he's part of the team here. So, when I texted him yesterday to check in, it wasn't as an employer or co-host of a show. It was just like, hey, man, you good? And so there's a couple of different things on my mind when I think of Cooper Mays and Jacob Warren, who work with us, being injured. And that is not only how are they physically. I mean, we don't believe this is any serious injury like his dad underwent right before the draft, that basically that was at a time where medical technology couldn't save your career, and his career was over off of just a freak workout before the NFL draft way back in the early 90s, I believe. We don't think that, but I do think about the fact that he could have gone pro. I think he would have been picked based off people I talked to in the 4th or 5th round. I think he's a hard worker. He could be making significant money now playing football. So I think about that. I think about a lot of things, and we're going to ask the question in just a bit. Should the Vols rest Cooper for the Florida game? It makes a lot of sense when you look at the schedule, and we can call it a minor procedure all we want to, but that's a surgical procedure is the bottom line. So welcome to everybody on the message board. Let's talk some fantastic Tennessee football as the Cats are in full pads and they're actually hitting. In a lot of ways, the season for me starts with the first scrimmage. So here we go. It is 4 downs, and it's brought to you by our friends at Zen Sports. Man, the app is absolutely, see what I did there? Absolutely fantastic. Zen Sports.
4 downs. 4 questions. 4 answers. The Dave Hooker Show.
4
downs. A presentation of offthehooksports.com.
All right, Tennessee's first scrimmage in the books. The guys have the day off. Coverage brought to you by Zen Sports, the new sports book in Tennessee, revolutionizing the way you earn sports betting rewards. That means no more deposit bonuses that turn into deposit nightmares. On Zen Sports, what you see is what you get. And with their cash rewards program, you get a lot of cash. For a welcome bonus, earn an unlimited 5% cash back on your betting volume for your first 15 days. That's just like winning. When you sign up with the code HOOKED, that's HOOKED, unlimited 5% cash back. Unlimited with the promo code HOOKED. Keep betting, keep earning with up to 3% cash back on your betting volume every month. After that, refer friends to earn a percentage of their betting volume as cash rewards too. Zen Sports bringing the cash back to Tennessee. So if you bet big on sports, you want to be betting on Zen Sports. Zen Sports betting just got better. All right, let's go to Cooper Mays, who does have the downs as we break down what the Vols did in their first scrimmage. By the way, I will pass along this. No inside information. I'm not going to do that. But Coop's doing well. Feels like it's a short recovery. So think of him. Keep him in your thoughts and prayers. Again, nothing serious or greater things that happen in the world. But this is awfully big for a young man who has put the team first on several different occasions. So here we go. First down, Coop. Oh, let's try that again.
Coop here. First down.
All right, Coop. Thank you, sir. He was absent for the scrimmage yesterday, but I guarantee you he'll be there for the rest of the run. Number one, the Vols miss Cooper Mays. I think that was pretty obvious in the scrimmage on Thursday. Ollie Lane is in that position. I think they had Addison Nichols, based off what I'm told, chalked into that or penciled into that position for a while. And quite frankly, he never went and grabbed it. So the Vols certainly missed Cooper Mays, who's not only a great leader in charge of a lot of the line calls. Listen, Ollie Lane's a scholarship athlete, but Cooper Mays is probably one of the more underrated athletes on the team. He's able to go against small defensive linemen like you saw at Pitt. He's able to go against big defensive linemen like you see in the SEC. And he plays with leverage, and he's really smart. So he's a combination of being really smart and a better athlete than he gets credit for. It's obvious. The Vols miss Cooper Mays. Down to Ollie Lane. Caleb, we talked about it. If this is the one player that you could have put in bubble wrap, this would be the guy.
Yeah, no, this is very obvious that they miss him. And we knew this was a concern going into the year, and this is the Murphy's Law of college football. Anything that can go wrong will go wrong, and the worst injury Tennessee could suffer, the last player they wanted hurt got hurt. I guess if you want to take a positive of it, maybe it forces Ollie Lane or Addison Nichols, somebody to try to, puts them in a position to try to flip a switch, because they need somebody to flip that switch at center at some point. And all things being equal, center is probably never less than the second most important position on the offensive line, right?
Yes, and I see what you're getting at. So left tackle would be the most important position,
or right tackle if you have a left-handed quarterback, but yeah.
Right. I would actually argue in Josh Heupel's system that maybe the center is more important than tackles. I never thought I would say that, but he does handle a lot of the line calls. But yes, it's one or two, needless to say.
Right. So this is a big deal. And you're right. Handling the line calls is huge for the tempo of this offense. So we're talking now the offense could really struggle with tempo later in the year if they don't have Cooper Mays healthy. Guys, this is a big deal. This is a really, really big deal. And if no one else has flipped the switch at center, you're going to see you will see a lot of mistakes early in the year that may not be fully on the quarterback. Let's just put it that way.
Well, now you're assuming he doesn't play, which I want to get into, because theoretically, and I think Josh Heupel is probably being optimistic. Why wouldn't he? He could be back 2 weeks from yesterday, which would be the 24th, and be ready for game week against Virginia. So I want to get more into that, but let's focus on the scrimmage for a little bit longer. Coop, second down.
Cooper Mays here. Second down.
All right, so the defense dominated, especially up front. Is that just because of Cooper Mays or something else? I have a theory.
It's partially because of Cooper Mays, but again, offensive line was I was screaming in the offseason that offensive line was a huge question for Tennessee. And the defensive line I don't think was a question. I think the defensive line is a very, very, very good unit for Tennessee. Amari Thomas is reliable. Tyler Baird and Roman Harrison are potential superstars. You brought up that Elijah Simmons could be a superstar. Well, all the
If that
offensive
guy
line
doesn't,
has.
I'm going to officially be on my soapbox. If he doesn't end up an all SEC player, he's going to regret it. 5 years from now, he's going to look back and say, Dad, blame it. Go ahead. I'm sorry to interrupt, Caleb.
So what you're saying is he will be Vince Vaughn and Rudy. Anybody remember that moment in Rudy?
Yes. Yes. By the way, I watched Swingers the other day, the Vince Vaughn movie. That's one of the most overrated movies I've ever seen. It just kind of ended like they ran out of money for the budget.
I never saw that one.
It is, you ain't missing nothing. Save that hour, 45 minutes of your life. But Vince Vaughn, of course, in old school was classic. All right. No, I got another theory. The offensive line always has to build chemistry. This is a new group. The defensive line doesn't. They can go out there and play hard and good things will happen. And I don't think I've covered any more than 1 or 2 camps out of 20 that the offense won the first scrimmage. So if that gives you an idea, it doesn't happen. So we'll see. But again, the Mays thing withstanding, this offensive line does need to come together. And you're right, should be a concern, but could still end up being pretty good. What down, Coop?
Tennessee center Cooper Mays here. 3rd down.
The Vols could be shifting at running back. Now, Tennessee, as we know, returns its top 3 tailbacks, Jalen Wright and Jabari Small. So I told you in spring, I said Dylan Sampson's lighting it up. Dylan Sampson is having the best offseason of any Vol. And I continued to say that. Right, Caleb? I said it the whole time.
You did.
I found it very interesting. Now, these scrimmages are closed, okay? So I'm not using my football eye here, but found it very interesting that Josh Heupel, who is very premeditated in what he says to the media, he mentioned Jalen Wright and Dylan Sampson. Jalen Wright has a bit better wiggle, in my opinion. He can make people miss. Kind of a dumbed down version, Jamal Lewis, Travis Henry. Jamal Lewis could make people miss, which is what made him so good. I'm not comparing the players at all. Travis Henry, all he can do is hit you, and he did that very well. I feel like that's Jabari Small. All he can do is hit you. He's not going to wiggle and turn that 2-yard gain into a 5 into a 15 by making someone on the second level miss. So the quotes from Josh Heupel were very telling that he likes Jalen Wright and Dylan Sampson. Would you be stunned if Wright and Sampson are the 2 leading rushers for Tennessee and Jabari Small is 3rd?
Yes, I'd be shocked if Small was 3rd. I think Small's still going to get the bulk of the carries because, again, there's so many things that Small does. One, you're right. Small's the hit you, but he'll get – if it's 3rd and 2, Small will get you 3 yards. You can't be sure that Wright or Sampson will do that. On top of that, Jabari Small is the best pass blocking running back on this team. There's nobody close to Jabari Small on that. And that makes him one of the things I learned about running backs, funny enough, last year, Dave, was I thought the athletic backs, those speedy, like we're talking about, the all-purpose backs, I thought they were the best ones to utilize in the passing game. I didn't realize, the best pass blocker is your best running back to use in the passing game because the defense doesn't know if he's going to block or go out into the flat. And so
Good point.
I noticed they never accounted for Jabari Small in the flat a lot of times because if Jalen Wright or Dylan Sampson's in there, you're pretty sure that they're not going to block. But if Jabari Small's in there, you don't know what he's going to do. And I think that's a big deal for the passing game.
All right, 4th down, Coop.
All SEC center Cooper Mays here. 4th down.
There may be a quarterback race. I'm just going to go ahead and throw it out there. Caleb, if you're the quarterback for the Knoxville Hookers, and
I love that name, man.
Yeah, it's pretty good. You're throwing to a bunch
Are Knoxville Hookers good? Are they worth it?
Yeah, but you're throwing to a bunch of Johns. Okay, so John Kelly, John Smith, John. Okay, if you're the quarterback for the Knoxville Hookers, which compliment would you prefer the most? Josh Heupel saying, quote, I thought operational was really good. The situational stuff that we can be better at. Coming out situation, we did some 4-minute things at the end as well. So it's a great opportunity. Who does that sound like he's talking about?
That sounds
Who's
like he's
that?
talking about a freshman quarterback at that point.
It's not. Okay. The other quote. Heupel. He's running everything, man. You know, you've heard me say that when they finish spring ball, when they come back beginning training camp, they should be a different player. He's a different player. Talking about Nico. There's a quarterback race. I'm going to be the first to go out on a limb. As orchestrated as Josh Heupel is, his comments and Joey Halsley's comments have come out very strong about Nico. And I ask you, which of those two compliments, as you're the starting quarterback for the Knoxville Hookers, or you're in a quarterback competition with Bob Prostitute, out of the two, I mean, I'd rather somebody say he's a different player than I thought operationally was really good. Ew.
Well,
You should be operationally good. You played college football for 18 years.
let's put it this way, since we're just going here. What would you rather a hooker say about your performance? Would you rather say the situational stuff we can be better at, or would you rather say he's running everything, man?
All right, Travis.
I will say this.
Go ahead. Travis has called me out. Sounds to me like you're reaching. So you be the judge and jury. Am I reaching like Travis says?
No, but you're wrong. You're not reaching, but you're wrong. You're reading into this exactly the wrong way. I'm going to tell you what Josh Heupel's doing.
Dang.
You told me this. You told me this last year that Nico showing up on campus kicked Joe Milton into high gear like never before. Josh Heupel is saying this to keep Joe Milton's edge for him.
That's pretty good. That's my guy right there. That's good stuff.
Josh Heupel wants the media stories about the quarterback controversy because he wants Joe Milton to not be relaxed in the starting job.
Okay, I really like that. There could be a column on that. It was kind of planned for yesterday, but the Cooper Mays thing happened, and that is obviously a big deal. A Football Friday with Fred. Fred White will join us. Let's talk today's tough question now, and it's brought to you by our friend Andy Mason at andymasonrealestate.com.
Today's tough question. Take a side. Take a stand. The Dave Hooker Show, a presentation of offthehooksports.com.
Should the Vols just rest Cooper Mays for the Florida game? Should they go ahead and say Virginia beatable with Caleb Calhoun at center? Austin Peay beatable with Caleb Calhoun at center? Should the Vols rest Cooper Mays? Tennessee center who's supposed to be out 13 more days. We're going to do a countdown. Should the Vols rest him for the Florida game?
I want to say yes, but I remember this happening one other time, 2002, different position, but remember Tennessee rested Kelly Washington for the first two games for the Florida game, and then Kelly Washington came out and it didn't stop them from losing to Florida. Totally different scenario. That was the rain, so where Casey Clausen didn't know how to snap the ball in the rain.
Yeah, that was when they had the new football. Travis, you talk about I'm reaching. They had the new football that was slick as glass when you put water on it. I remember Philip Fulmer the Monday after dunking the footballs and filling them. I was like, we've really gone elementary, haven't we? We've gone way back old school to checking the slickness of the football. Okay, I love you. I think that's a little bit of a reach. Here's why I rest him. Because if everything goes well at Florida, all the goals are still on the table. And arguably they are, even if you lost at Florida. But I think Cooper Mays means that much where I would just say, buddy, take a month off. Take a month off, do what you need to do. And here's the other thing. If he comes back on August the 24th, which is 2 weeks, first of all, you and I would agree that Josh Heupel is going to be optimistic in that prediction, correct?
Yes. Yes,
Okay.
He is.
If he comes back in 2 weeks, now I don't know, at least I'm not going to share if it's upper body or lower body, okay? But if it's lower body, and even if it's not, you just can't condition for this system on a treadmill or an elliptical. So would he be in complete game shape for Virginia if he just came back? And you remember, they'll take it really easy on Tennessee's football players the 3 days leading into game week. So Caleb, I'm telling him right now, I'm saying, don't you even think about doing anything for a couple weeks. Get yourself right. And then we'll get you up to game speed for the Virginia and Austin P weeks. And then you'll be ready for Florida. Am I crazy?
No, I mean, I'm with you on that. And you're right. I probably was reaching a little bit. I'm largely on your side. I would rest him for the Florida game. I break from you in the sense a little bit, and this is a bigger reason you rest him for the Florida game. The sky will fall if Tennessee loses to Florida. I'm sorry, the sky will fall, and it should. This is one of those games you can't afford to lose this game. Florida is down. They had a miserable off season. I remember 2012 when Tennessee cracked the top 25 at 2-0 with Dooley, and this was supposed to be like the breakout year for Dooley, his third year. And Florida was coming to town game day, and Dooley said, if we lose, the sky's not going to fall. We'll regroup. And in my mind, I'm like, no, Derek, if you lose, the sky's going to fall. This is one of those type of Florida games where the sky will fall if Tennessee loses to Florida. I'm just going to say that.
It will cast a pall on the season immediately in September. I'm not saying both these teams are poised to play for SEC titles. Well, Tennessee is in that position. Like in the 90s and early 2000s, I'm not saying that it's that big of a game, but from Tennessee's perspective, it is. I mean, that's a game you should win. And I just think about line calls. I think about all of that and how difficult that would be for Ollie Lane. The Vols can get around that against Virginia and Austin P. In the swamp against Florida, if they have poor center play, they're not going to win the football game. I'll just go ahead and tell you that simple. And from what I have been told, maybe things will change. Maybe he'll turn into a superstar. I don't have much faith in Ollie Lane. And I think Addison Nichols should have grabbed that job in spring camp. So we're getting to the point where we're starting to look at, and I don't want to sound like I'm coming down because I'm not. We're looking at Josh Heupel's players that are coming in, and they have to start filling in those holes. I don't see how they could win at Florida against a riled up crowd with another first time starting quarterback on the road and a center that is not more adept than what they have without Cooper Mays.
And when that happens, how loud do you think the calls will get for Nico Iamaleava at that point? Even though it won't be Joe Milton's fault, possibly, because it'll be the center play, but
he could throw 28. He could go 28 of 35 in a losing effort because Florida gets the lead. It doesn't matter. 28 of 35 for 330 yards, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions. And if they lose that game, people would still say, hey, how about we take a look at that Nico guy? And that's the last thing you want is a quarterback controversy. Because I can tell you firsthand, 2005, a quarterback controversy will absolutely tear apart a team. You have to make a decision and go. But as we mentioned earlier in those quotes, I'm not sure the decision has 100% been made. All right, so we both agree. Should the Vols rest Coop for the Florida game? Travis says losing Cooper for any game definitely changes Joe's play as well. I agree. And I want Joe to succeed. And I think they can beat Austin P and Virginia easily. Don't think they can beat Florida on the road. Joe's going to be great. Go ahead.
A big point on this. In 2021, I railed against Hendon Hooker's pocket presence. I thought it was terrible. I touted the dramatic improvement of it last year. Now I'm starting to think, was some of that because Cooper Mays was healthy last year? Did that make his pocket presence look a lot better?
Absolutely. 110,000%. He was injured often in 2001.
21.
No. 21. I completely agree. I think it was a huge part. Go ahead and hit that like button. Make sure your notifications are on. If you haven't subscribed, do so and tell a friend. We're almost at a 2,500 mark, and I know it's just a vanity number, but it would be cool to get to 2,500 or maybe even, let's say, 3,000 before the season starts. Let's throw high goals out there. I need you to tell friends, and when you see the show, I need you to share it because we're getting huge. I still need to get that drop from Donald Trump. I won't share my politics with you, but I do like making fun of both sides. Coming up, it's a Football Friday with Fred White. I will ask him a couple of questions. How does an injury affect a team? Remember, the Vols went through that with Jamal Lewis and their 98 national championship team. And what's the perfect amount of tailbacks? Can you have too many? Well, the Vols didn't have too many in 98 because they were able to plug in the Travises when Jamal got hurt. Football Friday with Fred, brought to you by Andy Mason. Stay tuned. More after this. He is Caleb Calhoun. I am Dave Hooker.
Our family has been creating one-of-a-kind pieces of jewelry in West Knoxville since 1986. Each piece is a combination of unique processes that bring your idea to life. Every day in our shop, a truly special item with a story all its own is being manufactured in our facility, bringing the history and family sentiment into a whole new generation of life. We're grateful that you chose us to be Knoxville's best jeweler, a title that we value and respect. Because to me, being a jeweler and owning a jewelry store are not the same thing. I'm Rick Terry. I'm a jeweler, and we want to be your jeweler. Kingston Pike and Campbell Station Road in the heart of Farragut, and downtown on Gay Street right next to the Tennessee Theater.
Hi, Mike Davis here with City Heating and Air, reminding you to always dare to compare. Our team provides quality local heating and air service, installation, and maintenance across East Tennessee. We use only the best equipment like American Standard heating and air conditioning for your residential, new construction, or commercial needs. Honesty, dependability, and customer satisfaction have been the cornerstones of our business since 1961. City Heat and Air.
Dare to compare.
These mountains hold and defend a spirit far better than moonshine. A drink that holds flavor, that becomes necessity. A hard cider made and relished by folk who are as hearty as they are legend. A refreshment that can only be found in one place. With a taste that makes you say, give me 3 bottles of the good stuff. Tennessee Cider Company, where necessity can be found.
A college football tradition like no other.
Yes, sirree, boys and girls.
Or a guy that just won't leave.
Wow, that is sad.
The Dave Hooker Show, YouTube, Apple, Spotify, and the free Off the Hook Sports app. A presentation of Off the Hook Sports. Back to Dave Hooker.
All right, let's bring on this next guy. He's dealt with injuries. Anybody that's played football for any amount of time has dealt with injuries. I'm not talking about himself. I'm sure he has as well. But he's been around a team that's been vastly affected by injuries. I can't think of a better guest to have on to provide insight to that than Fred White for a number of reasons. A, because he's just really good. And B, because he can provide specific insight into this Cooper Mays injury. So let's go ahead and get to the man right now. It is Fred White, a Football Friday with Fred. He's nice enough to join us. I got to get the applause running. There are too many buttons here. This is very frustrating. There we go. There's Fred White. By the way, Hall of Fame edition of Celebrate 98. Caleb, I'm not sure. Is that up yet, or are we dropping that today?
Dropping that today.
Dropping that today. Okay. You'll be able to check it out. So Fred and I had a lot of fun with this, and we talked about some of the most competitive, toughest balls, but he couldn't say 2 words. He couldn't say Al, as in Al Wilson. He couldn't say Fred, as in Fred White. So we turned through some good names, Fred. That was fun.
Yeah, I couldn't say me anyway because that'd be third person.
That's true. Dave told you not to say Fred, Dave. What that even means? Have you ever caught yourself speaking in third person? And you're like, who the hell am I?
I don't do that.
I've slipped. I have. And by the way, my Twitter handle, please follow, says at the Dave Hooker. It was because it was at the Dave Hooker show. And there's another Dave Hooker who lives in Britain who's a soccer official, and I couldn't get just at Dave Hooker. There you go. There's that. All right. Let's get to some football. And I sometimes think that the football season begins with the first scrimmage. So that was held on Thursday. Cooper Mays was not a part of the practice, and he had been limited beforehand. First of all, let's just talk about Cooper Mays specifically, Fred. How important is he to this football team?
Very important, because this is a senior year. This is what, 5th-year senior?
Yep.
That makes a difference, because the leadership, he understands what's going on the offensive line. He knows pretty much every position and what every guy's supposed to do. And being the center makes a difference too, because that center quarterback exchange is important. Anytime you change the center in a game or at any time, you got to get continuity with him and the quarterback. And I think that I hope he gets healthy quick, because we're going to need him first start of the season here.
No, I think you're right. And you said the chemistry between the quarterback and center is so important. Fred, how long does that take to develop? I mean, is that something you can't just pour some pixie dust, as Philip Fulmer used to say, and expect that to happen, can you?
No, you really can't. I think those things have developed over time. I mean, it's not something you can just plug and play. You can plug and play a lot of different positions, but that's one position that I don't think you can just plug and play. It's going to take some time. But usually when you see a center go down, when that next guy comes in, you'll see a few mishaps here and there. It's rarely that it's just a seamless transition, because it's a position that you gotta constantly snap the ball. You got to constantly understand what the quarterback's trying to get you to do, the cadence, making the calls at the line of scrimmage, and those type of things as well. You are the leader of that offensive line, and you got to be be on the same page with your quarterback at all times. And everybody doesn't snap the ball the same way. It doesn't have the same feel. I played quarterback in high school, and my center from high school, we always laugh and joke, like we still have a really close relationship. He said, "Man, you're the only guy that's been that close to me, ever in my life." And whenever he wasn't my center, I could feel a difference in the ball and how it came up. He knew exactly where I wanted the ball to be and how hard I wanted to come up and those type of things. It made a difference. So yeah, anytime you change the center position, you have a few mishaps. And we're in the shotgun a lot. We don't take the ball in the center as much. But even that, not everyone snaps the ball the same when it comes to shotguns and the same velocity and the height and those type of things as well. When you know where your quarterback wants the ball, you put it right where he wants it. And that takes some time to generate that.
Fred, before I dive in, first of all, for those who don't know, Fred White's in the Atlanta area. How psyched are you for the Renaissance World Tour this weekend?
I don't know.
The Beyonce concert. Beyonce's at Mercedes-Benz Stadium.
I knew exactly what you were talking about. But, back when I was younger, I might be happy because there's a whole lot of women going to be in town. Now
are you saying
I could care less. Is Jay-Z going to be there?
Wait, you're saying you don't have your crystal bikini that you're going to wear to the concert?
I've seen Beyonce in concert with Jay-Z. I'm not going to see a Beyonce concert by herself.
I saw Beyonce in concert in 2000. I saw Beyonce in concert in 2007 when Robin Thicke opened up for her. Funny enough. So
was he on Growing Pains? No, that was his dad, Alan.
So back to football. Fred, we're talking about the fact that nobody has really developed behind Cooper Mays yet at center. They tried Addison Nichols. They tried Ollie Lane. I thought Addison Nichols had a lot of potential. For somebody like him, is it just a mental hurdle at this point, or is it possible that maybe he just wasn't as good as we thought he might be?
Well, some guys just aren't centers. I mean, you can't just make a guy be a center. He either is or he isn't. It's not like I said, it's not a plug and play position. You can't take a guard and say, well, he's going to be a good center, and he's never really snapped like that. And just because you may have played it in high school don't mean you can play it at the next level, because the responsibility is a lot bigger than what it would be at a high school level. You got to call to your guards and let them know what's going on, which guy you're going to help, what a linebacker sits. You got to find out those type of things. Who you going off of? Who's our strong side linebacker? Who's our weak side linebacker? You're going to be communicating a lot of those things at the line of scrimmage. It's not just I'm snapping the ball. No. Can that guy actually snap the ball while the guy head up on him? Can he do that? You don't know if he can. That's the difference. You're not just snapping the ball. You got to be able to snap and be able to move without just seamlessly. You understand what I'm saying? And if you're not doing that on a regular basis, no. As soon as the center changes in a game, if the center gets hurt in the game, watch the next play. and it's almost routine and guaranteed. The next play, they're going to put a nose tackle head up on him to see if he can do it. The very next play. If I'm a defensive coordinator, as soon as the center goes out, the very next play, I'm going to put a nose guard head up on him, and I might bring an A-gap blitz right beside it.
Yeah. This is not the same situation, but it might be similar from just kind of an emotional blow in the immediacy of it. When you guys lost Jamal Lewis, I've talked to you a couple of different times, and you haven't said that you guys were scared or anything, and you went down and handled Georgia, so that moved the train forward, and you realized that Travis Henry was maybe even better than you thought. But just that emotional blow, a couple of times when I've talked to you and on the Celebrate 98 series, I've noticed, and tell me if I'm reading too much into it, you guys were concerned. I mean, that was an elite player. You guys were kind of wondering about how good you were when Jamal Lewis got hurt. How?
And I'm going to say this with no disrespect to Travis and Travis. They showed to be great football players at University of Tennessee, and they both did a good job when they got their chance to shine by themselves. Jamal Lewis was a different beast. We knew what we had with Jamal Lewis. We knew we had the best running back in the country, hands down. And we felt like we were going to be able to – he may have been a Heisman Trophy candidate, if not win the Heisman that year. That's what we thought, because we knew we were going to run the ball and pound the rock. When he went down, we didn't know what it was in the locker room. It was the next week in practice, and we found out that he tore his ACL. So knowing that going into Georgia, and they're a ranked team, and we're playing on ESPN, and everyone's picking us to lose anyway. Yeah, it was tough, but we came in with the mindset next man is up. We knew we had some good running backs behind them. We didn't know how good they were going to be, but we knew if we had two guys that can do what Jamal Lewis did by himself, we have a great chance. And our line was good, and our defense, man, we thought if you can't score, you can't win. Plain and simple. And I'm not going to tell you any lies. When it comes to Jamal getting injured, I got injured in that same game. I didn't even play in the Georgia game. So we were both going to get MRIs on our knees to see if we tore our ACLs.
Oh. Yeah, I knew you didn't play. I didn't know you were concerned it was that serious.
Yeah. I mean, I took a knee to the helmet to the knee, and I didn't play the rest of that Auburn game either, fourth quarter. And I'll never forget the Georgia game. I tried to go, but I knew that I hadn't torn my ACL. We both got MRIs, and I remember I went before him, and when he came back, that's when we found out he tore his ACL. Coaches told us, and I knew that already because I was on the same visit to the hospital that he was. So, yeah.
Fred, when a team's as talented as y'all's team was in '98, when you lose a star like that, because obviously you didn't just lose Jamal Lewis in the fourth game. That was heading into the year where you had to replace Peyton Manning at quarterback. Mm-hmm. I think of like something like Alabama going into this year having to replace Bryce Young. Do you think sometimes that can help because a lot of other players who may have been a little bit complacent relying on the stars are like, oh, I got to step up now because this superstar is out?
Well, there's no more watching. You're not going to watch on the sideline and you're going to get your job done. You're handling your business. I mean, I think football teams and football players, most athletes find any and everything to motivate them. I think knowing the fact that Peyton was gone and everybody was expecting us to be an 8-4 football team, I'm thinking, man, I'm better than 8-4 myself. So I don't know who you're talking to. You know what I mean? So that's.
Can I give a little background? Can I give a little background? So Philip Fulmer told you guys in the offseason, and he said he was serious, but you guys kind of think he was playing. We don't really know. He said that he thought the '98 team was about an 8-4 team or 7-5.
We were an 8-4 team at best.
Okay.
That's what he told us. He said that in the team meeting room. And I think that's the day we had that big brawl.
Yeah. So there's a story. You need to definitely watch the Celebrate 98 series. When did we talk about the big brawl? Who was that? That was Spencer Riley.
I think that was either Spencer Riley or Jermaine Copeland. One of those guys brought it up, and I can't remember which one. But I remember Spencer Riley talking about it, extensively.
Yeah, it was Spencer. That one is just fantastic, and it's one of the newest. So check it out. Again, turn those notifications on, like and subscribe. This from the message board. Fred, you need to be on UT's coaching staff. I've never asked you this question. I don't know why. Did you ever consider coaching?
No, I like my time.
That's fair. Stuck. And you coached for a short time. Was it in high school? Was that?
Yep, CAK.
Okay, gotcha.
Christian Academy in Knoxville. And that gave me my introduction into coaching, and it made me realize once I'm done with this group of guys, I'm good. I'm good. I don't need it anymore.
And I mean this as a compliment, but Fred in recruiting would be like me. You're begging a 16, 17-year-old kid to come to your school. And if he said, I don't know, I'm thinking Georgia, I'd be like, fine, I got to go. I got to go recruit somebody else. I could not do that.
I think here's a difference, though. I watch football players. I watch the game. I watch what you do on the football field. I don't know if many coaches are still watching film. And I think a lot of guys are watching, this guy's a 4-star. This guy's he had these type of camp numbers. Hey, man, everybody you say is a 5-star is not a 5-star. If that was the case, they'd be first-round draft picks as soon as they get done, right?
Yeah. How
many 5-stars be first-round draft picks? Most of them are not. So all this hype, I look at film. What does he do? Is he the best football player on the football field? I don't care what his intangibles are. He can be 6'4", 260, can run a 4.3 40. How many sacks do you have? So you mean to tell me if you're in high school and you're that big and that fast and you don't have over 20-something sacks in the season, I don't believe that you're that good. I don't care how fast you run. There are plenty of guys who can do great at combine stuff. The NFL combine shows you that. I mean, so I'm looking at what you do on the football field. Can you get the job done? What I'm looking for, that's what I need. Okay, this guy can hold up the defensive end position. He can withstand the run. He can also read whether it's run or pass and get into his pass rush really fast. Does he have a good first step? Can he turn the corner? When he gets to the quarterback, what does he do? Same thing in the secondary. Does he have any ball skills? I don't care how big and fast he is. It doesn't make any matter. I need guys who can make plays. I don't care what your number is. Do you make plays on the football field? Plain and simple.
It's great stuff. Speaking of guys that make plays,
that's what Butch Jones did. Obviously, he didn't care about star ratings at all. Okay, I'm sorry.
Sarcasm alert going on there.
I know offense. Well, yeah, I don't care if you take offense or not. He didn't have really good skills when it comes to recruiting. No, he might be good with the band, but he didn't know no football players. I guarantee you that.
Tennessee went through a 3-coach run where one recruited felons, the other
didn't bother to recruit.
Yeah, didn't bother to recruit. Yeah, that's the best way to put it. And the third couldn't evaluate talent. That's not good. Speaking of evaluating talent, Josh Heupel had some great things to say about Dylan Sampson and Jalen Wright. So what have you heard in the offseason about Dylan Sampson? Because I've heard just incredible things, that he's had the best offseason of any Vol on the team. He's ready to take another step. I'm curious what you think about him and what you've heard about the offseason he's had, because he had a great scrimmage on Thursday.
You know, I saw that the Doak Walker list has 2 of our running backs on it.
Mm-hmm. Jabari Small and Jalen Wright.
And I thought to myself, I don't even know if they're going to be starting toward the end of the year.
Yeah.
No offense. I think they're great running backs. I think we have a good group of running backs like we did back in the day. Now, I'm not going to sit here and tell you that they're Jamal Lewis, Travis Henry, and Travis Stevens. You look at the record books at UT, it shows how good they were. I don't know if we have that, but I think we have 3 different guys, and maybe even 4, that can get the job done. But Dylan Sampson is a guy I have been paying attention to since he got on campus, and I have been trying to figure out why he hasn't been a starter yet. And I've been trying to figure out, when is his breakout year going to come? I think this might be the breakout season.
I think so too.
I think he may be the guy that we're looking at game 3, 4, 5, and he's going to be the guy.
Yeah. Quick aside too, before Caleb jumps in, he's an outside guy. So you can't run away from the center, but you could do some toss sweep stuff if Coop's on the shelf. Go ahead, Caleb.
So, Fred, dare we go Alvin Kamara with Dylan Sampson?
He does remind us of him. Not just me. A lot of guys who played with me, we go watch practice and we walk away like, man, who do you remind you of? And every last one of us bring that name up. Now, I don't like doing comparisons. I really hate it. But he has the same skill set. Same skill set.
Yeah, pretty strong. Pretty strong. Would it stun you? Okay, out of those three, if you had to predict who's the odd man out, who's the third leading rusher? We're talking about Jalen Wright.
In today's game, having more than one guy, you don't have a bell cow anymore.
No,
you don't have that in the NFL. I mean, only bell cows you really have left are like the guy for the Titans. I mean, that's pretty much the only bell cow you have. Everybody else is interchangeable. You got this guy for first and second down. You got this guy for third down. You got this guy for change of pace. I think using those three, being able to find a way to put all those guys together and keep them fresh. I think Dylan Sampson is one that can do all those things. I like Wright. Wright is a home run hitter. He can run. And he plays very well. He's done some good things for us. And I think Small, he gives you what he has too. He doesn't have the same speed as the other guys, but I think he gives you what you need between the tackles. He can run the ball between the tackles. He runs tough. He runs hard. He can make some things happen. I think you have a three-headed monster that you should be able to use. And if you use those guys in the right way, which I like how Josh Heupel calls plays and how he game plans against people, I think that will be helpful for us. I don't want to odd anyone out. I think you use all three of them.
Interesting. Let me ask you this. How do you manage that? Because they want the ball 20, 25 times a game. I mean, who wouldn't? They're a competitor. But how do you manage that in order to make sure that everybody's happy? And I'm curious going into that 98 season, you think Travis Henry or Travis Stevens were like, man, I'm not going to get much of an opportunity here because J. Lou's pretty special?
You know the name of the game when you're an athlete? When you get a chance to shine, you shine.
Yeah.
Plain and simple. I don't care what plays you make. I don't care how many times you get on the football field. Whenever your number is called, you show up. Period. Playing special teams, me and Eric Westmore to talk about it. We couldn't get on the football field as freshmen. We were trying our best to get on the football field. But every time we touched it, we had to make plays. So everyone knew we could play. That's it. The whole name of the game is win. Let's win. Let's win. That's it. You take your ego out of this. This is a team sport. If you want to be the guy, you can go somewhere else if you want to, but this is what we're doing here. Because you may have opportunity to shine in the game, and another guy may not have it. He may not have it that day. You never know. We played with Jamal Lewis and Travis Henry my senior year in 1999, and they both did pretty good.
Yeah. And that's the way the running back position is now. Great stuff on breaking down the running backs. This on our message board. Travis says, good morning, Fred. How come Caleb doesn't have you listed on his top 10 UT safeties of all time? In fairness to Caleb, it was top 10 seasons as a safety. I was caught unaware before publishing that you weren't on that list. So I am claiming ignorance. But is there anything you want to say to Caleb specifically?
Opinions are like butts. Everybody got one.
but some butts are Beyonce's butt though, and
he brought it back. He brought it all back.
I look at a lot of different things. You can go back. You can look back in the day. I saw a list of linebackers that was done as well. And you look at some of the numbers. You look at Jackie Walker, who had one of the best seasons you can ever have as a linebacker, and Spivey and those guys. That the game was different then. You look at the safeties that played at UT, I can guarantee you some of those guys that are on the list had over 100 tackles. Does not tell me that guy's a really good football player. That tells me that his defensive line, his linebackers were crap. Because there's no safeties to have over 100 tackles in a season.
That is a fantastic point.
I'm just being honest.
Fred, I agree. And if I were on skill set, if I were actually doing 10 best safeties, you would easily be in there. You were better than half the people I named on the list because the game it's so relative, like from different times. Like Bobby Majors set the record for interceptions for Tennessee. I put him on there. I'm pretty sure you were a better safety than Bobby Majors. It was a totally different time.
Yeah, without a doubt. I would say that to his face. I'm sorry.
I would completely understand that. He is Fred White. If people need insurance anywhere in the Georgia area, it's very easy. Just Google Fred White Allstate, and bam, you'll be in good hands. How strong is that, Fred? How do people get a hold of you?
You know, Dave, they can give us a phone call at 770-381-0367. You can also Google us. Just Google Fred White Allstate. That's a very simple way to do it. And if you're in the social media, we're on every platform. It's Facebook, Instagram, and X. It used to be Twitter.
I constantly look at my computer and I'm like, what in the world is X? What tab do I have pulled up?
And now when you see videos,
Elon Musk.
And now when you see videos, it's X videos. Which
don't
type that in Google, guys.
Yeah, just go ahead and change the name to OnlyFans.
Exactly right.
Yeah. Just for the record, Beyonce nude on that horse. Did I miss that? When was Beyonce nude on a horse?
That's that album cover.
Oh,
it's that crystal bikini that I said Fred White has in his closet that he's going to wear tonight.
I haven't seen it.
If I went to the Beyonce concert and I spent however much, $300-$400 it takes to get in that place because Ticketmaster's a scam, I would basically just ask her to do the Jay-Z song over and over and over and do the same exact dance.
They have like 3 songs together. Which one are we talking about
here?
The
popular one.
They have like 3 popular ones.
The one where she's dancing on the dog
on the beach.
It's called All Night. I know which one you're talking. That's my song too.
Yeah, that's the one. And just keep doing that. Do it like 20 times. Jay-Z will come out and do the same rap. Or maybe he'll, as I said one time with Fred on the air, freelance. It's freestyle. Freelance is when you do work as a journalist on the side. And Fred just looked at me when we were on the air one time. And he's like, you don't even know what you said. And finally it was John Adams. He goes, I think it's freestyle. All right. Captain Caucasian, non-hip guy right here. He's Fred White. Have a blessed weekend, sir. And we will talk to you more again. You got to check it out. Fred White, Allstate, you will be in good hands. Have a great weekend, man. You make the show better each and every Friday, and we love it.
Man, thank you guys for having me. Go Vols, man.
He is Fred White. You talk about listen, let me just tell you something about Fred. Go ahead and hit the subscribe and like button right now because he's going to have some great insight into Tennessee's preseason camp now that they're actually popping pads. I'm just telling you, it's going to be great stuff. He is that good. Wait till my wife asks why you're paying $8 for X Premium.
Oh, that's
probably coming, I would think. I think they've run that every month. Arion Carter, one of the top 50 newcomers in college football. Now, key word being newcomers. So we're not just talking about freshmen, which he is. We're including transfers in that. That's not Caleb saying it. That's not me saying it. It's a pretty big name saying it. 90 seconds off the Hook Sports.
Candace, I was really heavy into the drug culture. I was selling drugs. I was just constantly in pain. I was missing like a good support system in my life. Candace has given me everything that I need in order to successfully have a wonderful recovery, in order to have a life that I didn't even know was possible. And it's not just about me anymore, and I love that. I absolutely love it.
You can take your life back. Call Cadis today.
With all that sun, sand, and salt water, the beach is a very relaxing place. Unless you wear contacts. Ow! Open your eyes to the best the beach has to offer with LASIK vision correction from Campbell Cunningham Laser Center. Ah.
Sports Treasures in North Knoxville is one of the South's largest sports cards and memorabilia dealers, featuring over 10 million sports cards from vintage to modern. Sports Treasures carries a full line of hobby boxes, singles, autographed memorabilia, Tennessee Vols collectibles, fan cave decorations, and so much more. See a museum full of collectibles at Sports Treasures, 4819 North Broadway in Fountain City, and Sports Treasures on Facebook. Sports Treasures, where the real sports fan goes to shop.
Who's this guy?
Hello, wizard.
The Dave Hooker Show,
Who?
a presentation of Off the Hook Sports,
What?
YouTube, Apple, Spotify, and the free Off the Hook Sports app. Back to Dave Hooker.
Stupid video. I'm an audio guy. I'm a radio guy. And Caleb is pointing out during the break that my shirt's inside out. Stupid radio. Stupid video. Yeah.
I saw the buttons on the inside. I'm like, wait a minute. What?
See if there's anything I can do. If you haven't subscribed to the YouTube channel and you want to see if Dave can dress himself, then all you have to do is hit subscribe and like. Turn your notifications on. Again, a Celebrate 98 series drops today, and Jacob Warren, the Vol Report, will drop this weekend, taping that this afternoon. So a lot going on, including my shirt being the wrong way out. Also, 22 days till it's football time in Tennessee. Richmond Flowers wore the number 22 as a wingback in the late 60s. Why was Richmond Flowers so important to the history of Tennessee and the SEC and college football? Any insight to that? Because I can.
Wasn't he the first All-American receiver for Tennessee, or was that Larry Severs?
He was that, and he was also later in life a big advocate of. Not social injustice. What am I trying to say here, Caleb? Social
justice? Or?
Social justice, yes. That's exactly what I was trying to say. He was he was a fantastic attorney and for a long time and did a lot of great things. And he was once called the fastest white boy alive on ESPN Classic. Richmond Flowers is one of those names that people just really have appreciated over the years. And he was fast. Despite only playing 8 games as a senior, he was a really good football player and certainly beloved by Tennessee fans. All right. So I got a what the H for you. And this one kind of blows me away. And it's brought to you by Sports Treasures. What the H?
What the? What was he thinking?
Release the hounds.
The Dave Hooker Show.
Keep cool.
A presentation of OffTheHookSports.com.
All righty. Arion Carter named one of the top 50 newcomers in college football. Good for Arion. This according to ESPN. But it's hard for me to fathom in these transfer portal days, that there aren't 50 transfer guys. I'm not knocking Arion at all. And this is coming from, I'm sure, Tennessee's coaches via ESPN. But Arion being on the top 50 surprises me a little bit. Any other Vols represented on that list, Caleb?
No. And that was the most shocking part about this, is because I would have thought Dante Thornton would be higher on the list than Arion Carter.
Set you up for that. You're right at the net, spiked it down. It's exactly true. I don't understand how you can't have Dante Thornton on this list, but you can have Arion Carter. That is a bit of a conundrum to me.
That's got to be coming from the coaches. I mean, I have great respect for ESPN's reporters, but I have serious doubts that they have attended every single football practice for every team and analyzed every single newcomer for every player. I don't think they've done that.
Pardon the interruption, is taking a 24-day hiatus. My wife asked me why, and I said it's because they fired all their good talent. So, no, they didn't have a reporter there. I mean, Chris Lowe would be that guy, but he's got to cover the whole SEC. So, no, they have not had a reporter there every day at practice. So you're right. They have no insight other than something that was fed to them Listen, I think Arion Carter can be on the list. I'm curious if you just kind of do a quick glance of the top few and who from the SEC is on the list, and then who stands out to you as far as being a freshman, because it's really difficult for a freshman to make this list in the transfer portal days.
Yes, I'm going through the top 10 now, and every top 10 player is a transfer. Omar Spates from Oregon State to LSU was the highest SEC one. And then Devin Leary to Kentucky. I mean, Denver Harris from A&M to LSU. Dave, I'm going through the top 20, and I still don't see a freshman on here. I'm just scrolling to look for the first freshman. And, okay, Caleb Downs at Alabama. But I've heard a lot of good things about Caleb Downs. I mean, that guy's the next superstar All-American of Alabama. Legendary secondary. He's going to be right up there with the greatest secondary players in Nick Saban history.
Wow, that's strong stuff. That's strong stuff. So all of the top 10 are transfers. What position was Arion Carter again?
Arion Carter was number 44. I don't know where he ranked among freshmen, but he was number 44 overall.
It's just hard for me to. I mean, if I said, "Hey, Caleb, I'll pay your mortgage if you can come up with 50 players that are going to have a bigger impact than Dante Thornton," I bet you couldn't do it. I don't think I could.
50 newcomers?
Yeah.
Yeah. I agree. And, the thing that threw me off was, so Carnell Tate's on this list at 42, who we all know Tennessee lost out on to Ohio State recruiting him. But Carnell Tate is going to a loaded receiver room. He's not going to play this year.
No, there's 3 first-round picks on that roster at Ohio State.
Yeah, so I'm not.
So should we just dismiss this at all? If we're going to, let's not put the author's name in the title of it, because we've done that once before. And the author of said article that we ripped one day and asked him to be on the next day, he said, "Just FYI, take it easy on me. I saw the video you did." Oh, sorry, Adam.
No, I don't take it easy on people. Hey, we got him on the show. It worked.
That's true. That's true. So who wrote this? Who are we questioning?
This is Tom Van Haren wrote this. And the top 3 makes sense. Travis Hunter, Sam Hartman, Shador Sanders, the 2 Colorado transfers, and the quarterback from Wake Forest and Notre Dame. All of those make sense.
So let me ask the message board for a second, because I'm in a journalistic conundrum here. I would like to have Tom on. I know Tom primarily focuses on recruiting. Maybe that benefits him. Maybe that doesn't. In these type of lists, I don't think it does. But I would have trouble actually interviewing him and without saying, what the H? How in the world is Dante Thornton not on this list ahead of Arion Carter? How is Arion Carter ahead of Dante Thornton? I mean, this almost seems like an oversight.
Also, and he hasn't won the job yet, but I would have Tyler Buckner at Alabama over Arion Carter. A lot of these guys, the Notre Dame transfer at quarterback. I mean, Dave, he's going to win the job, isn't he?
Yeah, I would think so. Let me ask you this. Would you, if Tennessee's top newcomers, okay, would we agree that Dante Thornton and Arion Carter in no specific order are 1-2? Would we agree?
Keenan Peely, too. Keenan Peely.
Okay.
Which throws me up even more, because Keenan Peely is going to start over Arion Carter, and he would be counting as a newcomer.
Yeah. Okay. So let's say they're the top 3. Can we do that? Let's say they're the top 3. Who's 4? And by the way, it's brought to you by Andy Mason, AndyMasonRealEstate.com. Best prices and service in the biz. Trust me with AndyMasonRealEstate.com. Support our advertisers. It's why we're here. AndyMasonRealEstate.com. More than 40 years in the real estate business in his office. AndyMasonRealEstate.com. Who's 4?
Oh, John Campbell Jr.
Okay. Agreed. I don't know if he's going to be as good of a player as the other 3 we've mentioned, but agreed. He fills a position of need at left tackle. Who's 5? We've never had this.
I'm going to go Gabe Judy Lally.
I love Gabe Judy Lally. Have I told you that? I think he's and I don't know if we've discussed it. I think he's, from what I've heard, kind of like your Trey Flowers, except he's not going to be locked into one position. So Caleb brought up a great point that Trey Flowers was actually underrated last year. And turns out he had myositis, so he was affected physically by that. But Caleb was right. Trey Flowers, I think, was covering for a lot of problems in the secondary. I think Gabe Judy Lawley is going to be able to do that, but he'll be able to do it from free, strong, nickel, maybe some corner if they need him. I think he's very versatile. So I love Gabe Judy Lawley. That was a good call out.
Yeah. We might as well. I was actually going to say this for next week. We're already going into it, so we might as well dive in, like most impactful transfers, maybe. But like that's the top 4. And then Andres Carrick is still on the offensive line. But I don't know. He's still like we see Cooper Mays get hurt, and I still don't hear anything about Andres Carrick being out there on the line at guard right now. So that seems like one that may not have worked out. And then you go to the defensive side, Omar Norman Lott. Is that a transfer that you just think was just a loss, or do you think that?
I don't think it's a loss. I think he plays. I just think it's a deep unit.
Okay.
I feel this. I don't think Carrick's a loss at this point. I think it's a little bit surprising he didn't come in and just grab the position at left guard.
Yeah, and that's somewhat of a red flag.
Yeah.
And so it's and there are some red flags. That's that way with the NFL. I mean, if you're an NFL team, for instance, I mean, we love Darnell Wright. We think he was amazing last year. But it's a red flag that he waited till his senior year when he was having to go to the draft before he decided to flip his switch.
So D said Ethan Davis. I think Ethan Davis has a chance to be a once a decade type of tight end. But he is so raw right now. If he plays much at all this season, it'll be sparingly. He has a long way to go. He is the basketball type who's a great athlete who can play tight end. So I think it's going to be some time before Ethan Davis. But next year, when we're having this conversation, I think we'll talk about Ethan Davis as one of the most exciting players on Tennessee's roster. So, and also that's one of the things that'll be in the ball report. I want to ask Jake about some of the things that Ethan Davis said about basically being a big brother. I thought that was incredibly strong. The ball report with Jacob Warren is brought to you by our friends at Bassey Lawn and Garden. Man alive, it is worth the drive. And lastly, this is something that Caleb wanted to get into, and I'm curious where he's going with this. Are college football fans complaining about conference realignment hypocrites? Yes. Yes. This stuff happened back in the 1930s. The Pac-12 almost died back then. And I think hypocritical and or uninformed, Caleb, because the sport is going to be better when you have 12 average to above average matchups and you take off the Austin Peay's of the world. I don't know what Austin Peay does in that world, but in my world, it's 12 great football games for whoever you follow if you're following one of the top 36 or so teams in NCAA football. What do you think of the critics?
So they are hypocritical. You and I differ on whether or not this is better. I'm not as much of a fan of it. That's a different debate for a different time because I actually want to get to my point with the fans though, because this struck me as another guy who our guy Josh Pate, who we interviewed at SEC Media Days, we listened to a lot. I love him. He's been critical of this too, but he said something that I think you can't hold these two thoughts in your head, which he talks about how average and mediocre the people running college football are and how they're not thinking things through. But then he touts Greg Sankey's intelligence. Well, who the heck do you think is fueling realignment? It's Greg Sankey and Tony Petitti and Brett Yormark. It's those three guys. And this is something that drives me crazy when people they like to complain about the entity. Guys, the NCAA is not an entity. You can't blame the NCAA for this. They have no power, and they never had the power to stop it. As you know, Dave, the Supreme Court, if you want to blame people, you blame the Supreme Court for the 1984 ruling that gave conference autonomy for TV deals, and then you blame every conference commissioner dating back to Roy Kramer who poached other conferences. You can't hold Roy Kramer, Greg Sankey, and Tony Petitti in high esteem, but then at the same time complain about conference realignment because they're the people who are responsible for it. This very much reminds me. And this is an American public thing. Everybody hates Congress. It has an 8 to 12% approval rating, yet incumbents have a 98% reelection. And I always laugh. I'm like, y'all complain about Congress all the time, and yet you keep reelecting the guys you're complaining about. Well, we're getting this now with college football. You complain about the changes in college football, yet you put the people who are directly responsible for the changes on a pedestal. You either are for what's happening and you hold those commissioners in high esteem, or you're against what's happening and you cannot stand these commissioners. It's one or the other, but you can't have it both ways. You can't tout Roy Kramer's impact on college football and praise it, but complain about realignment. You would agree, Dave. Roy Kramer started this more than anybody by poaching Arkansas.
Roy Kramer started this and didn't know it. I've told you this story before at my very first SEC media days. Actually, it was like my second or third in 2000. I asked him, and I said, Commissioner, with the BCS, you've set up what could be a playoff. And he was very anti-playoff. But by having a system in which the 1 and 2 and the 3 and 4 are seated, you're essentially building the frame for a car. And the engine was to make the decision to actually turn the key. See what it did there? And get it rolling into a playoff, which is what they did. Roy Kramer did not appreciate that and said, boy, why is your shirt inside out? No, he said, absolutely not. But he did. He set this all up. He set this up by bringing in Arkansas and South Carolina. The SEC has been the proactive one. So if you're anti-conference realignment and you're pro-SEC, you need a therapist because you could be very conflicted. It's the SEC that's pushed this from the get. If the SEC doesn't get Texas and Oklahoma, does the Big Ten really go after UCLA in Southern California?
No, the Big Ten did that because they needed to counter what the SEC was doing with its power. And I totally agree. The SEC did this. They started it in 1992. Again, there was conference realignment in the late 80s when a bunch of independents joined conferences, but the SEC poached a team from a major conference when they got Arkansas from the Southwest Conference, and they dissolved the Southwest Conference, which, Dave, as you know, was as elite of a conference as any of the major ones back then. And the SEC literally destroyed a conference to get one team.
May I go ahead and tell you this? In case you didn't know, Rocky Top Tom thinks that everything you've said is idiotic because he hates conference realignment. Okay, and I love it. So I'm not going to add to this conversation more than Rocky Top Tom can, who says it's on the screen. That's a false dichotomy, Caleb. It's not one or the other. What say you, Caleb Calhoun?
How is it not one or the other? If you don't like conference realignment, you should be mad at the SEC. Period. End of story. It's the SEC's fault. And it's now the Big Ten's fault, but it's mostly the SEC's fault. They started this. You should be mad at Roy Kramer. You should be mad at Mike Slive. And you should be mad at Greg Sankey.
Yep. There you go. And he didn't say, Rocky Top Tom said he didn't say idiotic. So one last update on, yes, go ahead.
No, I'm just going to say, and I'm with Rocky Top Tom that I don't like it. I know you like it. I don't. By the way, the person most responsible.
Oh, so you don't like you don't want to see a super conference at 36.
No, I don't. I like college football when it was 120 teams. I thought it was better. There was a pageantry and tradition and love for the sport that's going to die with realignment. I don't like the idea of the NFL model. College football is special, and you're taking away what's making it special. And so I don't like it. But I put the blame where it needs to be, which is the commissioners, and I will say every president who appointed those Supreme Court justices who ruled in favor of the conferences in 1984. Because the NCAA should have been allowed to have autonomy in dictating TV contracts. They were a governing body. Every other sports league has it.
Rocky Top Tom says, hey, I didn't say idiotic. Did you call one of our listeners an idiot, Caleb?
I never, what? No, I did not do that.
I did not know the reference. Last thing, because I love this conversation here. There's always been conference realignment, not within the context of playoff, NIL transfer portals, conference title games, media dollars directly correlated with membership, etc. I think all three of us can agree in that, right? I mean, the conference realignment I was referring to in the 30s wasn't about multi-million dollars. And really everything changed when the NCAA lost it. Correct me if I'm wrong. You're the historian here. Lost its antitrust.
1984. That's what I was talking about.
1984.
Blame the Supreme Court.
Yeah. So the conferences could go get their own TV deals. Now, college football moves so excruciatingly slow that it took a long time for things to change significantly. But that's ultimately 84, if you want to trace it back.
1984 made it natural that this was going to happen. Like that's just a fact. There was no way to stop it because of that Supreme Court ruling. And it was a stupid ruling because every other sports league gets to negotiate their own contracts and there's no antitrust violation. So it was a dumb rule too.
Agreed. I had a couple of people ask more about Cooper Mays. Again, it's supposed to be out 2 weeks. Do I think that's a little optimistic? Yes. Do I think that Tennessee should just go ahead and rest Cooper Mays for the Virginia and Austin Peay game? Yes, to get him ready for the Florida game. But everything I'm told is that this is a minor little thing and that he should be fine. But 2 weeks would have you 3 days out of game week preparation from Virginia, which is a little overdone because you can't tell me they're not looking at Virginia earlier in camp. So the first game, you talk about game week preparation. It's not like they haven't done anything beforehand on their opening opponent. But I guarantee you they're looking at some Florida stuff too. That's the game you need to be ready for. He's Caleb Calhoun. I'm Dave Hooker with you weekdays at 10 a.m.